Good morning, good morning. What an honor to be here. So no, I am not a farmer. I'm a teacher, and I guess basically all I can do is talk from my heart and share with you my incredible odyssey, if you will, which has gotten me here today. I'm a little bit older than I look. I'm eating better, so however old you attribute me to being, thank you, but I started teaching in the early 80s in the South Bronx. And for those of you who have these images of the South Bronx, back in the early 80s, it was literally just like it. And I was a failed professional athlete. I had dreams of being an athlete, and reality kind of hit me right where I stood. But I did pass some tests to become a teacher. And in the middle of the South Bronx, in the middle of the drug wars and gang wars, I was a teacher in a building that was the only standing building in an 8-block radius. I had students in high school who were older than me, bigger than me, stronger than me. Many had more than one children. And I became very energized about the possibility of what could happen in a community like mine. And that was my odyssey in public education. That was the start. I always was determined to treat kids the way I wanted to be treated. That kids should not be the worst thing their parents ever had, and that those who are on the marginalized edge could really become involved in ways that we never imagined. So long made short, after a series of very interesting, I was always like the cool teacher, the fun teacher. Back in my 20s, I was able to run faster and jump higher than most of them as well. But they were always looking for something new. And I found that it was really easier to engage kids in school with the power of their minds and possibilities, as opposed to the realities that were. And my fundamental belief was that I shouldn't accept life as it is, but rather not even life as it could be, but really have life as it should be. So fast come forward, we survived the 80s in the South Bronx with tremendous drug wars, tremendous, literally the Bronx was burnt. There were empty, abandoned houses everywhere. And we were trying to find a way to engage kids in school. And my specialty became working with throwaway kids, the kids that nobody wanted, the kids that were the biggest, the meanest, the least successful. Those are the kids that I was able to connect with. And I was able to connect with them under the premise that ideally so close to Manhattan, which had so much wealth, ideally so close to Westchester, which had so much wealth, that we could bridge these two populations in ways that would be better for everybody. And I really started focusing kids on work and career technical education and jobs that would engage them into the future. Along the way, as I got older, I got a little bigger. So there's some interesting wrinkles to my life. At one point, I was close to 300 pounds, which is rather remarkable. I'll show you my shirt. And I wound up having children who were born addicted to drugs, who were addicted to drugs, and the drug problem in New York City was just insane. And engaging kids in school seemed not really at the forefront of what public education was about. Public education was really just about maintaining status quo, so to speak. The system worked really well for the teachers and the administrators. The only people it wasn't serving well were kids in my community. And that really didn't seem fair or equitable to me. So I became a bit of an insurgent, and I was the guy who, I had 1,500 gallons of fish tanks in school. I had an academic Olympic team. I was the guy who figured out how to do math algorithms with kids where they could go to every single stop on the subway station. Just getting kids to think about their relationship to themselves and each other, and also the built and natural environment, and really found that my kids knew better than anybody that they are the canaries in the coal mine. They didn't need a degree in psychology or sociology to know what kids got off on what train station and who stayed on and who was doing what in a neighborhood. They really knew. And I wound up actually working with the most at-risk drug populations in New York City in school. And sadly, they come in school, they get arrested, they go out of school, and then they come back. And they come back even further behind than they were. So long made short, after a series of personal tragedies in my life, which my wife and I lost some children, I wound up moving closer to my home and moving to a new school where It was a targeted school. It had 194% capacity. It was literally jam-packed with kids. And as they were releasing kids from prison, they were sending me these kids. And these kids were ill-equipped to do much of anything, thank you kindly. And someone sent me, and a bulk of them came from prison. But I had known them since they were little, so there was kind of that relationship, if you will, that care that I had. And these kids, someone sent me a box of bulbs, flower bulbs, if you will. I didn't know what they were. I thought they were garlic. I had no idea, and I hid them behind a radiator. Lo and behold, one day there was a fight in class, and someone went to get a weapon, and there were hundreds of flowers that someone found behind this radiator because the steam from the radiator had forced them. And that was kind of this moment where the boys wanted to give them to girls for sex, the girls wanted to sell them, give them to their parents, and I realized that we could grow something greater. Well, that year, my gang kids and I planted 25,000 bulbs across New York City in abandoned lots and abandoned neighborhoods, and we realized that we could indeed grow something greater. That led to a whole awareness of green jobs, if you will, urban renewal, where we started taking the most marginalized and unproductive pieces of property in New York City and turning them into places where people would want to aggregate, where instead of places where people would go to commit crime, we could go and build things and grandparents could come out. And instead of more police coming into the neighborhoods, we had more grandparents coming out. And in my neighborhood, grandparents swing a much bigger cane than the police carry guns. So having grandparents out was really the Lexus of what happened. And most importantly, we took gang kids who would never go into certain neighborhoods and made them become a part of, where they were welcome because they were doing work that led to something greater. Remarkably, it was at the same time that this whole awareness about green roofs and green infrastructure and green walls were coming to place. And my kids were this incredible labor force, and lo and behold, I had big, strong kids who were poised, ready, willing, and able to work. And realized that their life would get better if they stopped doing what they were doing and started growing food and taking better care of their community. And we wound up, in 2006, I gave a talk at Columbia University called From Crack to Cucumbers, where I brought 20 young men who were at one point selling drugs, and instead were selling cucumbers and vegetables. They had turned their lives around, and no matter what you feel about drugs, I think society as a whole benefits when more kids are eating cucumbers and fewer people are selling drugs. And these kids really became engaged and involved in a community level that was insane, and we started then growing food. Because we learned most of the kids in New York City have little access to food. There is 25% unemployment in my community, 37% of the residents are food insecure. So the fact that most people don't even know where their next meal is coming from is rather remarkable, but to think that we had the capability of growing it and growing it indoors, I learned about vertical technology, and in my class, we became the first classroom to grow food in New York City year-round. And in a space not bigger much than this, I grew enough food year-round to grow 450 pounds of enough food to feed 450 kids in school. And lo and behold, we gave birth to the Green Bronx Machine. It has been an incredible odyssey ever since. Along the way, we have reclaimed untold lots and untold buildings. And while I'm very much about teaching kids what counts, teaching kids to count, teaching them what counts is so much more. I realized that, I could cure AIDS, I could cure cancer. And the chancellor will say, that's nice, what about attendance, what about test scores? And along the way, I've learned that linking test scores and performance to growing food really breeds spectacular results. I've moved my school from number 728 out of 1,700 schools to number 28. We've moved attendance from 40% attendance to 93% attendance. I'm proud to tell you that 100% of my kids go on to graduate, have graduated, and are either working for living wage or in post-secondary opportunities. We've generated close to 2,200 jobs, and in a community that has 45% unemployment, that is game-changing. But for me, most importantly, when you teach kids about nature, you teach them to nurture. And when kids learn to nurture, we as a society collectively embrace our better nature. We are eating our way into good health. My odyssey is this. This used to be me when we first started, so I like to say I'm bringing sexy back. And as the health of the South Bronx goes, so goes the health of New York City, New York State, and the nation. My kids have farmed their way to the White House. They have farmed their way across the country. And I like to say, you know, we are Americans, Mexicans, Dominicans, African Americans, and this is our moment. And Superman is not coming. But I, me, you, us, we are the ones that we are waiting for, and block by block, classroom by classroom, kids can change, mindsets can change, waistlines can change, and that's what this work has been all about. So I'd love to welcome some questions. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your interest. And together we can grow something greater. I started with overage, undercredited kids, but I'm now working with K-12 schools, so getting good habits as young as they can means I don't have to deal with kids when they have bad habits. And teaching kids to eat across the rainbow is not a bag of Skittles. It is really learning to eat healthy and healthy kids and healthy outcomes, and I'm just blessed. I really feel I'm the luckiest man on the planet. I get a little misty-eyed because I can't believe that my work has taken me from my little corner of the world here to you, but really the impact of it, because I'm not a farmer. I'm a people farmer, but my kids are my seeds, and I like planting them. I like planting sometimes the kids in the ground too when they get tough, but you know, we keep growing. It's no pare sigue, you know. We are the Si Se Puede crew, and I'm just thrilled to be here and meet all of you. Thank you kindly.
I have to ask my obligate question. It's among all that difficult times and things you guys sees, which one was the most difficult to overcome as a Green Bronx machine?
You know, it's really been a wonderful ride. So, you know, I get more love along the way than any one person should ever be allowed to have. So there has been nothing hard. Have there been challenges? Absolutely. Right now, I'm probably at the greatest challenge of my life because there's such a need for this. There's such a demand for it. It went from a very small program. I started with 5 kids, went to 15. Now I'm across 3 schools. I'm in a bunch of states. I'm working here in Mexico. I just spoke in Colombia. So figuring out the infrastructure piece is very difficult for me, and that perhaps is my greatest challenge, the infrastructure, how to grow this, and finding the right corporate partners. I'll speak a little more about that later, but I believe that teachers and the right technology with the right corporate responsibility can really change the world. Capitalism done right has the possibility of just incredible results, and that's really where I'm at. I don't want to be a non-for-profit that says, thank you for giving me money, can you please send more money? You know, for me, sustainability is the starting point. If you were to ask me how my relationship is with my wife and I said sustainable, well, that would be ridiculous. I want transformational, I want exponential, I want transformation, so I'm looking for ways to figure that out. And it keeps me up at night, but the rewards have been so wonderful, not only in my own life, but you know, you can come to the South Bronx and see flowers growing. I have my little mariposas, my little butterflies. I mean, my kids are my little butterflies. It's really amazing. And I have big kids who are, you know, 2nd and 3rd generation of students who are now reclaiming a neighborhood. And you'll get to see some of that later today. It's exciting. Thank you. I hope I answered your question. I mean, I don't see challenges. I don't say why. I say why not. You know, asking for permission is begging for denial. And I'm not one to do that. If God runs for office, first of all, when I get up in the morning, I always give God credit. But once he runs for office, I'll start doing it publicly. So give everybody else credit. You know, give everybody else credit. That's a good way to keep it going.
Hi. Actually, the alliances are essential for success in new business. What do you consider was the best alliance you find in the construction of your project?
Well, what I really found, that's a great point. And I believe that communities of wealth, proximate to communities of high need, are the greatest incubators for social success. As the wealthier get wealthy and the bottom gets bigger, the poor are going to come and eat the rich at some point. So when companies really invest in the next generation of consumers and employees, they're doing themselves a great service. But also, people love the story. So when I started growing thousands of pounds of food, it was like, oh my God, how am I going to sell all of these 1,000 pounds of food in one day at $1 a pound? Now I find the right add value relationships and I sell maybe 100 pounds of food for way more than I should and give away the other thousands. And everybody wins and everybody loves the narrative. But traditionally, my kids are also a great source of labor. And I do believe that living wage is the greatest equalizer of all. And we have intergenerational families where fathers and sons business, the sons just want to run the business. My kids are a great labor force. So giving them the social skills, the soft skills, the please, the thank you, the have a nice day, and not going out and taking their money and wasting it on alcohol or drugs and really career management is enabling us to grow our own economy right where we live. Because these people are reinvesting it and starting their own businesses, whether they're bodegas or salons or restaurants, but being able to manage them own, my job is to move kids from poverty to middle class. And I'm finding that I can do that with the right corporate social partners and people who are really invested in these communities. It pays. We're building property value. I mean, ABCD to me is really asset-based community development.
I have a question, and it's related with your the development of your project. Did you have or did you receive any help from politicians or authorities, or how is your relation with them? Just you go on your own with your project, or they help you in some?
I'm a force to be reckoned with. So and plus I got a wife that really, who really swings a heavy hammer. But I started this with just a fundamental belief that kids had to see me invested. And I funded it all out of my own pockets. So the financiers are right here. The bank is called Hip National. It started with my pockets. Now, politicians have always been very supportive of me. Because when you have kids that go from 40% attendance to 93% attendance, those kids wind up voting. So my politicians have been wonderful. Schools have been wonderful. Some people don't want to see kids succeed also. There's a whole economy built around failure. I say, more schools and less jails, more books and less guns, more learning and less vice. There are a lot of people who don't want to see that. But at the end of the day, those aren't the people who are living in my neighborhood. And block by block, leveraging grandma and politicians and people. This is about participatory democracy. And when you move those who are apart from to becoming a part of, together, we can all prosper. So politicians have been great, and really, it's hard not to like cute kids eating vegetables. I mean, there are much easier things to go after than me. And as long as I keep leveraging test scores and attendance and performance, which I've been able to do, it's a great story. So I've been blessed, and I thank God every day. I'm the conductor of an orchestra I can't play an instrument of. Last question? Okay, I'm so sorry we ran out of time. I could be a little wordy.
Congratulations, Stephen, for your program. Simple question: Have you had the chance to duplicate this program in other parts of the U.S. or state of New York?
It's fascinating because I never wanted it to be about me. I wanted it to be about we. So I focus really on very replicable, low-cost technologies, which is important, in this age of the next app and the latest and greatest. I focus on what's replicable, scalable, and safe. And my kids, my fourth graders, travel the country teaching high school students, teaching elementary school students. It's cute. No one wants to listen to the big fat white guy. People like kids like kids, and when they can do it and grow it. So we've trained school districts all over the country. I'll be talking a little bit today about my partnership with the Instituto Thomas Jefferson here in Mexico, which is brilliant, a private school dedicated to public service. So it's kind of exciting. I mean, if I can, you can, we can, this is our moment. Si se puede, no para, sigue, sigue. Yeah, I get up early and stay up late, so we're determined to work, and my kids come to school. I'm happy to take one more. I know we're out of time, they're flashing me, but I always like to answer questions.
It seems like it has been quite a journey, but it also seemed it's gotten a little bit rough. So my question for you is, which person do you look to for inspiration when times get a little bit tough?
Well, first and foremost, my wife. I mean, I jokingly say that, I am the face and probably the backside of the organization. She's everything else. So really, she's the unsung hero. And again, our personal tragedies, our family tragedies and our losses could have been something that really buried us. But we're just determined to make sure that our reach forever exceeds our grasp, and that, the legacy will far exceed, our child's time on earth. And that's really what it's about, just to leave the world a little better. I get a lot of love. You're going to meet a lot of kids in my presentation today and see a lot of happy faces. in dark places. So, out of darkness can come the light. I am the weed that wants to succeed. I am that piece of crabgrass in your lawn. So I am determined to grow and grow something greater, and we are just getting started. So I don't say, oh, why? I say, why not? Let's do it. No para, sigue, sigue. Thank you so much, and I look forward to chatting with you outside or later or at lunch, and enjoy the show. And thank you so much for being here and for your support. I will tell you this, for all the data that's out there, nothing works with kids like love. So if you can find an hour a week to read to a kid, to donate some time to a kid, that would be my biggest takeaway. Yeah, I'd love someone to write $1 million check, but everybody in the room can find an hour to spend with a child or in a community center. And no one ever went broke by giving either. So please do something beyond yourself, and together we can all prosper. Thank you. Thank you very much.